I love that you touched on Islam, Judaism, as we celebrate a Christian holiday today. So spring is a time of renewal. The flowers are in bloom, as Maria brought into her prayer this morning. Our temperatures are warming. It's not too hot yet. Spring is bringing forth in all its beauty. We're also celebrating Easter today. And that's the remembering of the crucifixion on Friday and the resurrection of the Christ in the springtime, as they represent the dying of the old, winter passing, that was Good Friday, and the resurrection, or the rising into the new. Neville Goddard writes, "These dates are movable and coincide with the cosmic change which occurs at this time of year, marking the death of the old year and the beginning, resurrecting of the new year, or spring. These dates do not symbolize the death and resurrection of the Lord, but they do symbolize the death and resurrection of the Lord, but the Lord is not a man. It is your awareness of being. Consciousness slays itself from that which it is conscious of being, so that it may live to that which it desires to be." So what does that all say? It essentially is our consciousness is our desire to know and live from the truth of our beingness, that we are infinite expressions of life. So last week, Cherise Patron sang and spoke about saying yes to Spirit. Knowing Spirit is always at work, at the last minute last week, I chose to read Begin with Yes from Reverend Deborah Johnson's book, The Sacred Yes, which is her kind of Conversations with God book. And I read that for our meditation. And this chapter essentially challenges us to say yes to Spirit from a place of trust rather than that human level yes. That human level yes that is given only after we know what we're agreeing to, right? Can I ask for a favor? Can you do this for me? Before we ever say yes, we want to know what it is we're being asked of. But Spirit calls us to say yes on the front end. In her book, Spirit asks, "What could I possibly want you to say yes to that is not for your own good?" I knew I should have. Here we go. Turn the page. Spirit asks, "What plan could I possibly have in mind that's not going to make you win along with everyone else? What could you possibly consent to that would not make your life so much greater an experience than it is now? What is it that you have to know ahead of time before you understand the answers to the questions I have just posed? How much do you need to see to believe that I am in your corner?" And while we all desire to change, to be all that we can be, change is uncomfortable, and we often try to remain comfortable in our comfort zones. Change can be scary. There's fear, worry, and uncertainty. 3 of the 4 topics we're covering in the change class. Change requires us to break down the walls of comfort and safety and step into the unknown. Change requires us to be vulnerable. Which brings us to the talk title, Cracks and Canyons. Now, for weeks, I truly believed, I'm talking months, I truly believed the talk title was Cracks and Crayons. So much so that in my meditation notes, I was like, what was CSL thinking? And it was only pointed out on Tuesday night, thanks Spirit, in the form of Janet and Maria, that it's really canyons. Now, the past me would have sunk into and wallowed in my wrongness. How could I have made such a mistake? How could I possibly think of admitting this mistake to you guys? I could have just kept it secret. Nobody had to know that I was thinking this wrong thing for a month and a half. But I've made it my practice over the years to confront and disassemble the walls that have kept me small and hidden. Currently, I'm reading Busting Loose from the Money Game by Robert Scheinfeld. In it, he talks about reclaiming our power from the eggs we have created and hidden within ourselves that have helped us to navigate what he calls the human game. I thought eggs were appropriate since we're celebrating Easter. We have eggs out there for the sharing. Now, these eggs that Scheinfeld talks about have 4 components. The first one is belief. An event happens in our life, and we form a belief about it. Then we add some judgment. This event is good or it's bad. Then we add consequences. If this happens, then that happens. If I make a mistake, I will be criticized, I will be judged, I will be wrong, I will be bad. Those are all the pictures that I work off of, the egg I'm disassembling. And then the final ingredient is power, the power of our mind, the group consciousness, spirit, the universal yes, all add power to the egg. Now, these eggs keep us trapped in being limited and finite. Scheinfeld says, now you must reverse all of that and take yourself from finite back into the infinite. Scheinfeld then leads us on an egg hunt to discover and reclaim our power from these eggs. We must be willing to really dig into the discomfort to reclaim our power, to crack the egg wide open and reclaim the truth of our beingness. Now, some say cracks let spirit in. I have come to believe that the cracks allow our spirit to shine out, to radiate out into the world. And cracks are necessary for our emergence. Now, I know it's not easy. And yet, when a chick is breaking through its shell, it is the breaking through that gives it strength. If someone helps a butterfly out of its cocoon, it does not develop the strength it needs to fly. The cracks provide the starting point for us to be strong enough to face the canyons, those transitions of our lives. Now, as I've been meditating on canyons and not crayons this week, I have images of deep canyons with steep, unclimbable walls. They represent those leap of faith moments that we have all come to throughout our lives. Canyons represent those transition times when we are crossing from the familiar into the unknown. They lie between the here and the there. Now, some of the images that I have are trapeze artists when they're in that in-between space, when they've let go of one bar and they're waiting to grab on, they're flying through the air, grabbing onto the next bar. But then also what follows that is, well, when they're learning how to do that, they have nets, they have people that help them. They're safe, and they're learning. Then I think of explorers back in the day when the earth was flat, and yet they sailed into uncharted seas where there be monsters. And Star Trek, where they boldly go where no one has gone before. I think of my big moves, the deep, bone-shaking fear I felt leaving Santa Rosa for Bakersfield. And the sense of being in between when I was taking that 10-hour drive from Bakersfield to Tucson. Yes, there is risk, but there is also a deep calling that pulls these adventurers forward, and we have all been adventurers. Then there are the images of bridges, mostly thanks to movies. And the canyon always represents death of something. It's bottomless. There's no going back. It's too sheer to climb down, go across the bottom, climb back up. There's urgency. We have to move now. And I think of the rickety bridge, right? That rickety bridge, it's usually like a suspension bridge, and there's wind blowing, and there's rotten wood, and pieces missing, right? But we have to get across. There's a push. The bad folks are chasing the heroes. We have to go, or we will surely die, which is essentially being stuck in the sameness in a rut. Usually in these movies, as they're crossing the rickety bridge, someone falls, trips, almost dies, but their team members pull them back up, and they keep going. And then they get to the other side, and the rickety bridge fails finally, usually taking all the bad guys with them, and they're all saved. They've made it. And then we have the invisible bridge, the trust bridge, the bridge that we can't see. And one of the famous ones that we're all very familiar with is the Indiana Jones bridge, right? I forget which indie movie it is, but you know, they're being chased by the bad guys, and their mythology tells them there should be a bridge here. And they throw sand on it to test it. I think that's a little bit cheating. But there is still that trust. Because, you know, I've never been to that invisible bridge at the Grand Canyon, but I know for me, no matter how much my brain tells me I can see the invisibility of it, my body's still going to think it's going to fall. My favorite invisible bridge is in the movie Onward. And if you're not familiar with this, it's a Disney film. It's available for streaming. And it is about two boys. It's a coming-of-age movie. It's a Pixar collaboration. And it is set in a village that used to be magic. Magic used to be the thing. And then they developed technology, which was easier, and everybody could use it, and magic fell away. The two brothers, the older brother, is steeped in the history. He has the, you know, essentially Dungeons and Dragons game. He knows all the players, all the pieces. He knows all the history of the magic of where they live. The younger brother, Ian, the older brother is Barley. The younger brother is Ian. And Ian is steeped in fear. He's afraid to talk to people. He's socially awkward. He's just turned 16 is the start point of our adventure. And he's learning to drive, and he's afraid to merge onto the freeway because everything is moving so fast. Everything he's afraid to fail. So they go out on his 16th birthday. Their mother goes up, and their father had died when before Ian was born. And so he never met his dad. And so his mother gives them a magic wand, and Barley, the older brother, spends hours trying to make the magic spell work that will bring their father back for one day. And he can't make it work, and he thinks he should because, you know, he knows all the lore, he knows the spells, he knows how to make the spells work, he knows all of the history. But it's the younger son, Ian, the one that's steeped in fear, that has the magic. After Barley gives up, Ian kind of picks up the wand and goes over to the spell and just casually reads it, and it starts to work. Well, he becomes overwhelmed, and things happen. The magic stone breaks, and there's only half a dad. We have half a dad, bottom to waist. So the adventure is to go find a replacement stone so they can finish the spell and have the remaining 24 hours with their father, whom Ian has never met. They go through a lot of adventures, and I have to say, if you haven't seen this film, every character that is featured in the movie finds themselves. So I recommend it. We could do a movie talk on it. Every character. But we come to the bridge. There is a bridge in this movie. And this bridge is invisible. It's a trust bridge, and it has to be created with magic. And so Barley tells Ian, okay, well, first, they get to the bridge, and they're driving in a van, right? And they've got half a dad, and we have to find a lever because there is a bridge. There is a drawbridge that will get them across. But they have to find the lever. Well, Ian's like, well, there it is over on the other side, right? So how do we get there? We have to build a trust bridge, and that's a spell. So Barley tells them how to do it, what words to say. And this is the second spell that Ian has had to cast in the film. And so he has to use 2 of the 3 elements. He has to speak the spell from his heart's fire. Second step is he has to trust himself. And of course, Ian goes on about all the excuses why he can't do it. He's not good enough, strong enough. I can't walk out on there. There's nothing there. And Barley, he's got a rope, so he's like, hey, okay, I got you. Let's tie you off. I'll hold you so you're safe. Okay? So they do that. He ties off. He says the spell. He's like, I don't know that it's working. And the staff is glowing, so you know something's happening, right? But Ian's not trusting that. But Barley says, no, it's working, but you have to trust that it's working. Go ahead, take a step. And of course he falls, because he's not believing it yet. And he falls, and Barley has him on the rope, and he pulls him up. And I love this part. He's like, well, that wasn't so bad, right? You're still alive. Now you know the worst that can happen. There's nothing to be scared of. Try it again. So Ian recenters, reinforces the spell, takes the step, and it holds. And he takes another step. And Barley says, you have to believe with every step. And so Ian's walking. He's taking a step. He's getting comfortable. He's getting across. About halfway across, that rope runs out of length, and it slides off. And Barley gathers it up. And Ian's dancing. I've got this. I'm walking. I've got this. I'm walking, right? He gets all the way to the other side. He's got one step left, and he's like, I've got this. You've got me, right? And he turns around and sees Barley standing there with the rope, and he loses his trust and falls. But the magic wand catches on the side of the rock. He pulls himself up. It's all well, draws the bridge. Barley drives Dad and half a Dad and the van and everything across. Gets out. It's like, that was awesome. You did it. You're so cool. And Ian's pissed. He is so angry. You let go of the rope. And what does Barley say? Oh, well, this is how the scene ends. Ian's telling Barley, I really needed that rope. And Barley says, oh, but did you? So how often do we reach those canyons of our lives that we're afraid to cross, believing we need a rope or something or someone outside ourselves to make the crossing? Perhaps what we're most afraid of is that there's no going back to who we were before we took that first step. Now, our thought of the day, Ernest Holmes writes, there is something within you beyond all doubt and fear, something which has never been limited by your acts or destroyed by your feeling. This is the only something that can make you whole. So when we move past our doubt and fear, we step into the truth of our being, and we step into a new expression of wholeness. It is this something that we step into. And as Deborah Johnson writes, when you say yes to me, yes to spirit, you say yes to us, yes to our oneness. Say yes to your understanding that all plans come together for your good. Yes is your understanding that despite appearances, despite all the facts and seeming circumstances, I am alive and well and working in all of them and have a way of transforming all of them into something that is a benefit for all. Now, an artist friend of mine years ago made a painting of a woman at the edge of a cliff. It's kind of a canyon. And coming up from the canyon are all sorts of good things, images of love and abundance and well-being, diamonds and sparkles and stars. And this woman in this painting is leaning into it, leaning into spirit, knowing spirit is all good, is there to lift her up. And so today, I invite you into the cracks and crevices of your life, unlocking and reclaiming your power from the eggs of limitation, smallness, and safety. I invite you to lean into the canyons of your life, knowing the Spirit's got your rope, that's helping, it is that helping hand, until you know in your being You never needed the rope anyway. And I invite you to say yes to Spirit's calling you into the next greater expression of the infinite being we truly are. And I want to close with a word about crayons. If you break one, just keep coloring. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll take that into prayer. You can close your eyes if that's comfortable. Taking a deep breath. Breathing in that knowing that there is only one divine love expressing itself in infinite form. I know that this one is the very life breath. It is the very source of my being. It is the abundance, the joy, the love, the health, the wellness, the oneness that I am. And as I know that it is all of that in me, I know that it is all of that in each of you. As we gather together today, I just affirm that none of us are walking alone. That each of us has the strength and the curiosity to go on egg hunts, hunting for those eggs of limitation that we have created at a time of vulnerability, so that we can reclaim our power, stand more in the truth of who we are as powerful, infinite beings in the one. I know that as we approach those canyons, whether we are drawn or pushed, I know that Spirit has got our rope. We are not going to fall. We are held every step of the way when we are on our path. When we are walking our journey, I know that all is well, despite appearances. And so I know that today, each of us says yes in our own unique, perfect way. We say yes to the next opening of Spirit as us. I say a word from our center as we say yes to our new minister who is being called in, riding this wave of love and wholeness. I am grateful. I'm grateful for being here today. I'm grateful for celebrating with each of you this holy day, of which every day is holy. And it's from this gratitude that I release this word into the law of yes, into the law of love, knowing it is so, for so it is.
And so it is.